Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's executive meeting. I'd like to start with any apologies. Mark, I think you've got to cover.
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies from Councillor Ledbetter and Councillor Kelly Mitchell.
Okay, other than that, we've got a full house. So the first item on the agenda is to sign the minutes of the meeting of the 5th of October. Are you all in favour that we accept those? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Sutton and Councillor Paul. All those in favour? Any concerns?
I'm going to that as unanimous vote. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for having me. We now move on to item 4. There are no part 2 items this evening, so I'm going to need to pass a resolution just to remind members of any declarations of interest to report and advise us in the normal way. We move now on to item 5, which is questions from the members of the public, and I believe we've got one question from Peter Cleesby, who should know the drill by now.
Thank you, Chair. My question is this: does the Council agree that taking a more consistently open approach to disclosing information, such as a clear default policy in favour of publication, would reduce the costs of the Council complying with the legislation?
Thank you. Under its publication scheme and its commitment to openness and transparency, the Council already openly discloses a significant amount of information, including more than 1,200 pages on its website. This is in addition to more than 10 data sets, such as contracts, grants, and expenditure over £500, that are published regularly under the Transparency Code. The costs of preparing that information, including redacting personal and commercially sensitive information, are already significant and fixed. Under our existing commitment to openness and transparency, any information that is not published can be requested, and we abide by the Information Commissioner's presumption in favour of disclosure. It is often the case that information requested under the Freedom of Information Act is not routinely published, as it needs to be retrieved from various information systems, and liaison with external parties is often needed. Officers are then required to review the information to redact information that the Council is entitled to withhold on the basis of, for example, personal, commercially sensitive, or legally privileged exemptions. This is in the interest of the Council, its partners, residents and taxpayers, and to ensure that the Council does not breach other legislation, such as the Data Protection Act of 2018. Inevitably, there is a cost to that processing, which arises irrespective of when the information is published or developed positions. We have set out in the report that follows exactly what we will be doing as we look to reduce the burden. Okay?
Thank you, Chair. Very grateful for that. I say I often saw the spirit of support rather than criticism. But since January 2018, I've made 21 Freedom of Information requests to this Council. Now, of the requests that were refused, I referred 7 for review of that decision. And in 5 of those cases, the refusal was overturned, usually by internal review nor occasioned by a higher authority. So that means that 5 out of 7, or over 70% of initial decisions, were found not to comply with the law.
So Peter, if I can say to you, what is your supplementary question based upon my answer? If you want to have a debate with me, as you know, you can contact me. I will meet with you at any time, and I would love to chat around this and have a debate with anybody at any time. But please ask a supplementary question based upon my answer, Peter.
Well, all right, I do my best. I mean, I felt personally does the leader agree that the fact that the council's performance is not 100% in this business, and that therefore unnecessary time is being used in answering these questions? I think that comes directly from the report. That there is something to be said for a shift in culture towards openness among staff who advise the Freedom of Information Officer, and that better training in the Act's obligations is required for the same staff.
No, I don't agree, Peter. Okay? And I refer you to the answer I gave a few moments ago. Thank you. Okay, so that is that. We now move on to, keeping on this theme, item 6, request for information. And you will see on page 13, item 6, there is a recommendation that the executive and the council note the report. Bruce, are you speaking to this? Bruce, would you like to introduce the paper for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report that we've brought to attention before, but we thought as the Freedom of Information Act has been in place for several years now, it would be helpful to give an update on the work involved and appraise members of how the number of requests we received and how these are handled. So the report summarises the number of requests we've received in the last 3 years, the nature of those requests, how we handle them, and the resource implications. And at the end, it also looks at how we can start looking at reducing the burden on our requests. I won't go into any detail, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, before I open into the debate, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. As part of the executive's deliberations, I wondered if you could consider if freedom of information requests could be published on the website as they are with Devon County Council, because that is very helpful and informative.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I will have a discussion with the officers in due course to see whether that's possible or not. Bruce, can you?
I can answer that quickly if you like, Lee. So I think we'd have to first question why we would actually do that, why we would publish all our requests. So the first reason could be so that members of the public could browse all our FOI requests at their leisure. From my experience of dealing with FOIs, there's no evidence of that demand, and I personally doubt that people would sit and browse our website to review our FOI requests. The second reason we might want to do that is to prevent repeat requests, so that people can go on and look at an earlier similar request. The nature of FOI requests is that they are very specific and subtly different and often demand a very tailored response. And the probability of matching requests, I think, is very low. So looking at those two reasons why we might do it, first, I think we have to question the benefit of diverting our already scarce resources to keeping that register live on the website, which would involve redacting information, maintaining it, which would divert my one FOI officer from dealing with, FOI requests. If you look at the councils, they take different approaches to this. Cambridge, for example, don't publish a register, East Devon do. Cambridge is rationale for not publish one is for resource reasons, and similarly to questioning the appetite for that information. So in summary, I think we could do it, as all councils do, but we would have to have a clear rationale for doing it.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'll be coming to you asking you the cost implications of that. As you know, we are in the process of looking at next year's budget, and why I wanted this paper to come to the executive and to the council because I want people to realise what cost this brings on the council. I'm not saying we should do it, I just want people to appreciate the amount of money. Like you say, we have an FOI officer to deal solely with this, and we've got lots of requests. We will hear of we should have an officer for this, that and the other. And, but of course, if there is a purpose to a question, personally I'm always happy to answer one. But there we are. Is there anybody else wishes to come in on this? Councillor.
Thank you. In my previous portfolio, I was working with Bruce on this area, and it's a real concern that the rise that's highlighted in this report, and it's not stopped, it's still rising. And working in my current portfolio with the communications team, the professional journalists, and they're used to seeing a succession of FOIs coming through from national serious journalists such as BBC, etc. When they are researching a national story, they fire out at every council to get a nationwide picture. So that's kind of run of the mill, if you were, and that hasn't increased dramatically. What we're seeing, I think, more is a more localised requirement for local journalism, which I think is tricky. Certainly, when you look at the detail of minutes that the council produces, the attached papers the council produces, I think there is by law quite a high degree of transparency to the work of the council anyway. I just find it a little frustrating, I think, that in the times of austerity when we are trying to sustain services, that there are not questions being put formally in a mechanism that generates a lot of cost to meet all the legal technicalities involved in answering it. I find it frustrating that those questions aren't just put to a councillor, put to yourself as leader when you would answer them, to put it through this formal framework, and then those same questions get asked to elected officers, those same questions get emailed to different elements of the council. It's just a frightening waste of officer time, I feel, when the answers are there to get in a much easier, quicker way. So really interesting to see this report, saddened to see the trend increase, and also that it seems to be sourcing from places that we don't need to come from. They can just pick up the phone, talk to me, look at the answers.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Anybody else wishes to come in on this one? No? Okay. Well, we've got the recommendation for us that we know the report and send it to full council for noting. All those in, I move from the chair.
Seconded.
All those in favour?
Again, but that's unanimous vote in favour of the recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. And then we move on to item 7, which is being deferred until the 30th of November. That was on Article 4 direction. That will come back to the executive then. Item 8, which is the draft statements on gambling policy. And I think this is Councillor Fowle to introduce the recommendations. This yours, Paul?
The executive supports the introduction of the updated Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Licensing Policy. Secondly, the Council formally adopts the updated Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Licensing Policy.
Thank you, Councillor Fowle. Simon Lane, want to speak to this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is a policy that we are required by law to review every 3 years. It has gone through the licensing committee twice, first to go out to notify interested parties, including a number of statutory partners, and it returned to the licensing committee last week, following the time for any comments to come back from the interested parties. The policy hasn't changed significantly. It is largely administrative changes to job titles that have taken place, because there has not been any significant change to national legislation or governments.
Thank you, Simon. I open that up to the floor. Does anybody wish to comment? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, this is a really good read if anybody wants to know a lot about Exeter and different parts of Exeter. I'm just really pleased that the city has got a very good gambling policy. I know this is an update because of work that happened a few years ago, but we're carrying on with that gambling policy because unlike some of the national policies, we are able to make some local stipulations in here. So if you bought one night, I would read it because it's quite good.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Is there anything else? Okay, well, I'm not going to gamble on the next 3 recommendations. I'm going to move it from the chair.
Seconded, Chair.
All those in favour of the recommendations, please show.
That is unanimous vote in favour of recommendations, Chair.
Thank you. Item 9 is the proposed consultation on varying the public spaces protection order. And again, Councillor Fowle, we've got 3 recommendations for the Executive to approve. Can you move your recommendation?
So the Executive approves the contents of the proposed variation of Prohibition E contained in Appendix A. The consultation takes place between the 2nd of November and the 31st of December 2021, which seeks the views of the public and other stakeholders. And thirdly, the report making recommendations on whether to amend or seek continuance of the current public spaces protection order is presented to Executive on the 8th of February 2022 and Council on the 22nd of February 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Fowle. Simon, do you want to tell us what's happening here?
As the Executive know well, Chair, we have been looking at antisocial behaviour in the city over the last few years. And one of the things that have come up from other partners and people that live, work and visit the city is the continuance of certain unacceptable behaviours that are taking place. What this report proposes to do is seeks to consult on one element of the public space protection order, which is the last prohibition, Prohibition E, which is all about dispersal powers that are available to authorised officers under this current order. At present, that current order allows for dispersal of groups of 2 or more people that are causing antisocial behaviour, or as it's correctly defined, harassment, alarm and distress, for a maximum of up to 6 hours. What this consultation seeks to do is seek the views from those who live, work, visit the city on whether suggested 24-hour period because there has been instances of people returning or not even obeying 6 hours, and it is not considered necessarily sufficient amount of time for people to reflect on the behaviour that they've had. So this consultation seeks, if Executive approves, to go between now and the end of December, with a view to coming back in February to discuss whether the PSDO should continue, whether it should be amended, or whether it should be dropped altogether.
Thank you, so. Councillor Paul, I'll come back to you at the end. And so Councillor Moore wants to come in. Can I say, we are not debating that this evening. The consultation doesn't start until tomorrow, so we're not debating it tonight. You will get a full chance to debate, the council will get a full chance to debate. This is saying that we're putting it out there for consultation. So, Councillor Moore, comments about the appropriateness of it is not appropriate tonight. If you want to say something about these recommendations, then please feel free to do so.
Councillor, I'm not talking about the appropriateness or not, and social behaviour is a simple thing. I just want to ask a question of clarification, which I think is important for the consultation. So in the equality impact assessment, it highlights the impact of this detention on people with mental health illnesses or people who are homeless, and it talks about approaches to handling people in these circumstances. In terms of the consultation, is there proposed to be any supplementary guidance that is given to officers who are implementing this in terms of handling those circumstances or people who are experiencing these issues? Because it seems to me that will come up in the consultation as a continual question, and the approach here is trying to differentiate that it's not going to be a blanket approach, but it's not clear how it will be managed if someone does have a mental illness or someone is homeless.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I'll let you come in at the end, Simon, on that, but I'd be very surprised if all those issues are picked up as a consequence of the consultation, and actually, in fact, disappointed if it's not. Is there anybody else? I'll come to you about that at the end. Councillor Wood.
Thank you. I note the consultation 2nd of November to the 31st of December. Obviously, this end of the year, you're slightly nervous about things happening around Christmas, but I think that's about 8 weeks consultation, which is good to see. It kind of accepts that people may have other things on their mind this time of year. I think it's good that it's going out, and I think some of the recommendations that are being made definitely need to be put to the public. They are good recommendations from my perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Is there anybody else wish to comment on this? No. Sorry, those issues that Councillor Moore read will come up in the consultation. You pick all those issues up, won't you?
Absolutely.
That's what I need to be arguing that. We're not debating it tonight. We will have a full opportunity for all of that coming forward. You've given me the answer you want. Councillor Fox wanted to come up here.
Thank you, Chair. As we return to some semblance of normality, gradually, post-COVID, I think there's an increasing feeling as people return to the city of feeling uncomfortable. There were a hard core of individuals who are exhibiting antisocial behaviour. I think this consultation will be welcomed by the residents of Exeter who are more and more on the doorstep expressing those concerns at the moment. Hopefully we will have a positive approach that includes the sort of issues that Diane is referring to as well.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. So then we have 3 recommendations to you. We have 3 recommendations, and I move from the Chair.
Seconded.
All those in favour of those recommendations, please show.
That's unanimous vote in favour of the recommendations.
And now we move on to the final item on the agenda, which is item 10, Representation Act for sections 222 and 223 of the Local Government Act, and I think this comes from the Democratic Services recommendation. Legal Services comes under Laura's portfolio. So if you can just introduce the recommendation, Laura, please.
Yes, there's no actual reports on this. It's just recommendations for authorisation to allow foreign officers to represent the council and county and magistrates courts, and that's Chris Barnett and Max Murphy, who are both apprentice solicitors.
Good. Simon Culver, would you like to add anything to this?
Yes, please, Chair. Just to say that our two apprentices, just by way of background briefly, joined the council in September 2015 and November 2017 respectively. Some of you may have met them on occasion, and they've been making sterling efforts during their time in the services, and now we want to give them an opportunity to work in the courts. We can have power for authorisation under section 222 and 223 of the Local Government Act 1972, as Councillor Wright has set out, and I'd urge you to agree to that. Any questions?
Okay, is there anybody wish to ask any questions on this? Councillor Moore, and then Councillor Wood, and then Councillor Sutton.
It's just recognition, if you like, that times are extremely difficult, that we are still enabling people to further their careers. This is a prime example. We're still investing in the staff of the city, which generally means citizens of the city. So it's good to see.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very similar views. I don't think I've met Max Murphy. I've certainly met Chris Garlick. And it's great to see, as Councillor Wood said, that we are able to offer really high quality apprenticeships, which is not to say that if kind of other apprenticeships that are, if you like, less academically focused on thoroughly, but I imagine it's not an easy profession to get going in. So the fact that the council has been able to offer those opportunities and they are making such good use of them in progressing it's great. And so congratulations to them and to the team that we've supported. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, if there's nobody else, I'll come back to you, Simon.
Yes, thank you, Councillors, and I appreciate the comments. And it's Legal Services has made tremendous efforts, the Council has made tremendous efforts to develop solicitors through the apprenticeship programme. It gives these individuals a tremendous opportunity. We all know the position as far as funding of degrees and the amount of money that young people have to spend in getting an education and to qualify as a solicitor, and it is almost impossible for a lot of people poor means to make that kind of progress, and we are giving opportunities here. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Although certainly the other way around the Freedom of Information Act by the end of their apprenticeships. So, all those in favour of the recommendation, please show. That's agreed.
Yeah, that's unanimous vote in favour, Chair.
Thank you. The next meeting is Tuesday the 30th, and just for those, as we all know, we will be, hopefully, for those who can get there, to our good friend Peter's funeral this Thursday at 11:30 at Heritage Church. So that'll close the meeting, and safe journey home. And if you're on your bikes, make sure you go through the cycle lane, which is well lit. Thank you very much.